So welcome to today's film fitting, where Nopadon has kindly offered his services to us, and today we're going to be checking out irons. So in terms of general kind of MO today, is there a specific thing you're trying to achieve?
No, I've been playing maybe 3 or 4 years, and these were secondhand purchases. And so I had a fitting here for a driver shaft, and it was revelatory. And so I thought now is the time to really explore what irons would be good for me.
Great stuff. Well, I've got to keep up with revelatory from our previous fitter, so pressure's on me. Let's get in the bay and see what we can do. So whilst Nopadon warms up and kind of run through the specs, and actually for something where in principle second-hand purchases can be quite dangerous because they can be quite variable, actually it's a really consistent set, so there's nothing kind of out of the ordinary or wacky being done to them post-purchase. So the 950 Neo shaft, so relatively lightweight, sort of mid to lightweight, just under 100 grams, slightly higher launch in principle from a spin point of view, but lengths are very much standard. String width's pretty neutral around D2, actually very consistent set makeup. The JPEX 921 hot metals designed to be quite powerful, and so really there's nothing that kind of the good sides are based on. There's nothing really kind of mad from a spec point of view that I'm looking at going, okay, there's something really kind of dodgy to have to rectify here. It's really a case of how well are they working for them. But you say standard length, pretty neutral swing weight, +4 multi-compounds on there. Yeah, it's just whether, from a flight point of view, is the kind of launch and spin in a good window, and from a timing standpoint, can we better those shafts? So once it's loosened up, we'll get some data.
Okay. We're warm.
We'll get another 2 or 3 just to get a good base data. In terms of distance-wise, if you had a par 3 on a good number for the 6, what would you, roughly speaking, what would you play that for?
6 is maybe 165 yards, 160, 65 somewhere.
Okay.
There's that weight.
Got it. Okay, see one more, that'd be great. Okay. So let's have a little run through some of those. So generally speaking, actually kind of ball speed on the solid hits, smash factor there's pretty good, up near the 140 mark. So actually getting a good energy transfer to the ball there. Yes, paths out to him, which is creating the fade. And that's really something where I think from a club dynamic point of view, it just, with that tendency to leave the weight on your back foot, is the dead weight of the club anything to do with that? Is that tending to get it dropped behind you and exaggerating any tendency that way? I think that's probably the key thing for me. I mean, they're not monstrously heavy, but equally speaking, if they are a little on the heavier side for you, then they can end up kind of dropping under. So rather than being able to kind of naturally turn onto that front side, is that mass getting in the way of that?
Okay.
Certainly from a head point of view, when the ball flight's good, they're quite a strong loft, and you do get a nice angle of attack. It's not like you're fanning loads of loft onto them. So the flight tends to be a little bit on the stronger side, on the better hit. So essentially, if we can square off club face a little bit more and have a little less fade, then that will bring flight down. So it's then whether potentially do we need a head that flights it a little bit more. But there's, consistency-wise, very repeating. There's one that got a little bit more out to in, but actually, whilst it is out to in, it's a repeating pattern there. So ultimately, it's really a case of what's going to help get get low point at the ball as consistently as possible, rather than trying to get just a touch behind it.
Where's the low point number?
I will add that on. So you get good angle of attack, but occasionally it drops. Typically that one it's missed, but occasionally it drops where it drops a little behind you. It then bottoms out a little soon.
Before,
and I guess is the club making that more of a tendency, and by changing the kind of mass dynamics, can we actually help to get it a bit more out in front and naturally squaring the face up? So yes, with a path out to in, that will result in a slight pull, but does that then actually then facilitate aligning it a little bit squarer as well? So there's a little bit of a chicken egg element to it. But say it's a repeating pattern, which is ultimately is the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you're
going to be bad, be consistently bad.
Ultimately, yes, because then you've got a known miss pattern.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're suddenly going to go from hitting a fade pattern to hitting a strong draw. That's just not going to change that much without going and doing that practice. But ultimately, it's a very, very repeating movement there. So whatever we can do to essentially minimize that face to path number to make it, I guess, less of that fade pattern, that just means it'll be a little bit, we can tighten up the dispersion there. But so angle of attack's great, and so when you get good contact, you get good ball speed. But it's can we just make it a little bit easier to get that real kind of crisp contact out of it?
Okay.
So I'll go and start off with current equivalent of the head. So we're changing, just look at the shaft side of things first, and then see as we dial that in, what does that do for ball flight, and then we can use the head to manipulate from there. Anything you're interested in testing today?
Game improvement.
Okay. Don't make it harder than it needs to be.
Yes, please.
That sounds very fair. So I will definitely base my recommendations on that. Yeah. It's one of those ones where there are two very viable theories to kind of work within. One is that if the club tends to get behind, leave the face open, that lighter should allow you to get it out in front more easily. But then sometimes too light doesn't actually drop the club and give you only the hit against to then square the face against. So it's one of those, hence we've always got to test it and say, right, does your timing and your technique and the way you react well to that change? Okay. One more. Might look a little.
Feels nice though.
Right.
But I can't articulate what feels nice, but something feels maybe just different.
It is one of the things with feel is that actually anything that you feel is like one person's feel can be different to another in how you articulate it, but actually none of it's wrong because ultimately it's how you're experiencing the club. Okay, so that one looks to me like it's a little light in the bottom end. So like that swing in particular, as you started down, kind of didn't look like there was any of the club helping to kind of drop it in. Looked like you could throw it, which then ends up having to go more right, because if you pull on the handle to start the club going down and essentially stand the club up, to get it to the ball, you've got to go down that way, which cuts it across even more. So I'm going to keep the dead weight similar, but I'm going to put some mass down the bottom end of the shaft, that is. Okay, so way better from a swing plane point of view. So whereas with the lighter one, it's almost like once the club went above your hands, it kind of got lost, and then you can overwork it, putting a bit of mass down the bottom half of the shaft. So it's within 3 or 4 grams dead weight.
It's amazing that this is
the club
technically
you back and through better.
It's the same club, but it doesn't feel like the same.
It should
club.
feel pretty. Yeah, these two shafts should swing pretty differently. Little more over. Just got right shoulder over that a little bit. Okay.
Let's do it again.
Okay. Yeah, definitely a better pattern through the ball. But I'm just gonna change the dead weight a little more. It just still looks like it's slightly late on you. So I'm gonna the same series of this shaft, but take a little bit of weight. So haven't got to the point where, okay, we've got to the point where balance point gets too light, but I don't think we've got to the point where dead weight's too light. So I'm just going to pull that dead weight down a little bit more. I think you said earlier it was your wife that got you into golf.
Yes. It was she went to take a lesson with a colleague, and immediately she said, I think it's something that you might enjoy.
Yeah.
I said, but I know how much time
Yeah.
and money and everything it's going to be on our lives. So I resisted it massively. And now look at me.
She does still play, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not like that,
She's super jealous that I'm doing this today.
Yeah. Yeah, nice to be able to do it. That's just nice to be able to do it and then spend time together as well. I think that's
It's a bit fat, I think.
a little heavy, but it was a better track. So face the path less open. I know it got a little bit of ground, but actually looked a better line through again.
Oi. Come on.
Okay. Cool. Let's watch one more with that.
Yep.
Okay. Definitely closer. The ones where, actually, I reckon the first one and that one, you got a little bit of a better shoulder turn on. So the ones where you get more of a turn and a turn on the arms picking up, those are the ones that start to get through the line better. So I know it's a little heavy, but that first one squared the face up much better. Sometimes the first one's the most interesting one because they're the least conscious.
Yeah.
So just saying, all right,
And
see
now
what,
start
see
thinking
what
about
happens,
it,
and
yeah.
then we start adjusting. But I didn't dislike the pattern of that, so I'm going to grab a few different options rather than back and forth and back and forth.
Let's turn.
Good move. I think that looks slightly harder. There's more. You got more speed on that, but that looks like you're just having to drag it a little bit. I'm going to just rein that back a fraction, but that's a better turn, a better move. So it's just slight changes in balance point. Dead weight, we're say currently in around the 75 gram mark. So about 20 grams lighter than your current shafts. Okay, right, that's better. That's better.
I'm trying not to hit it like hard, you know, I'm just trying to make a good swing, but
Yeah, I think ultimately it's a case of, that's the thing, it's freeing it up, and then it's whatever, I guess, sort of intensity of swing you're most comfortable with. For some players, it's, you know, they're more full bore, is more naturally where they sit, and others it's sort of a little quieter. It's just where your musculature moves.
wait, back.
Got a little bit more over the top on that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a better move. Okay. It's a little under, but I don't dislike. I'll watch one more of this and make a slight change. I don't dislike the way this one swings. Okay. This one's looking the kind of cleanest through the ball so far in terms of allowing you to get you and the club arriving more in sync. So yes, path still outwind, so it's still producing a fade, but this one looks to me so far like it's got the least barriers to letting you swing through. So which ultimately then means that's then going to be the easiest to manoeuvre and start to line get the swing path, because it's a couple of degrees open to target, but the shot shape is more the path going left. So it might sound a bit of an odd comment that yes, the face is open, it's creating the fade, but it's because your path is left rather than the face being monstrously open to target.
Okay.
But that looks like the kind of shaft that you can start to maneuver and the swing work that you can do in the lessons you can have, that's starting to look like you can swing the club rather than the club swing you.
Okay.
Swing. Okay.
That peak height is higher, right?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a crisper contact, so that's just getting you a bit more ball speed, a bit more height.
It was before the ball.
Okay, let's see one more of that, and I'll go back to that previous one. Okay, again, quite clean timing through the ball. So face to target is 0.6 of a degree off. That's just, it's like I said earlier, it's path going left rather than the club getting really stuck and open. You've delivered the face absolutely bang on line with
It's
the
just
target.
out to in swing.
It's just then a case of from there, okay, you manoeuvre the pathless out to in and it straightens the shot up. Easy, easy game. That one definitely needs you to hit at it a little bit more. I think that's tending just to drop the face a little bit more open. I think I prefer that previous one. So going back to it, as we've worked down that previous shaft, the badass option, that one looked like it swung a little more freely. I think this one, if you were more minded to kind of give it a hit and a bit more aggressive naturally, that gives you a bit more to hit against, but I think it needs you to, whereas I think this other one swings a little bit natural, a little bit more easily. So rather than forcing you to have to give it a bit extra.
If I give it a bit extra, it's almost always trouble for me.
Yeah. So something that, to what you said earlier, just makes it a bit easier to get the best out of it. Just means you can free the swing up and smooth it out. You don't necessarily have to kind of back off it and steer it, but you haven't got to put force into it, and I think that's when it can go wrong.
It's I find if with that 6-iron, if I'm reaching, that's when it's trouble, because I start to think, okay, I have to swing it a little bit harder.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back into that. Yeah, immediately back into that. There's a little bit on the strike to come out of it, but immediately club's more, face is squaring up more, it's less behind and less open. So it's basically halved the amount that the face is open to path, just on that swing there. Yeah.
Back. Okay.
Gonna give you just a little bit more weight on the head there. Just increase the feel of the club just a touch.
Do you always do the fittings with the 6-iron?
Yes.
Why is the 6-iron?
So, I mean, fittings generally, whereas a lot of 7-irons now, they always used to be a 6-iron, but that's because where 7-iron loft is now is where 6-iron loft used to be.
Oh, okay.
But for us, part of it is I think you can see where someone's longest iron should be with the 6 from a flight point of view, but it just challenges the strike a little bit more, and you kind of want to see where the, not quite stress point, but actually where it becomes a little bit of a challenge, because then I think you can set the set up a little bit more accurately by knowing at what point does it start to become.
If it was a 5-iron, I would be in trouble. I can't hit it. Don't even hit it.
That was a nice hit. Maybe it looks a good move. Maybe a little hillside. Okay. Nice. That little bit extra head weight is helping just to create a little bit more hand action. There's a little bit more drop and lag, and therefore a bit more release. So that one there, nice angle of attack, good contact, bit more spin. Ball speed 112, but you could see just adding that little bit of head weight created a little bit more lag and whip. You can start to use the weight of the head to take you through.
Would it be more similar to what I'm currently playing? Because it feels different, right?
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, we're 20 odd grams lighter in the shaft. So I guess, ultimately, yes, adding that little bit more head weight brings it slightly close to what you've got, but it's still a pretty different setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little bit more head weight is allowing you to swing the club a little bit more. So those couple are two of the best hits we've had. But certainly that's starting to look like you can just start to turn and collect it rather than having to find contact.
Is this the same length as well?
It is, yes. Okay, so that one got a little more out to him, but actually in terms of the timing and the consistency with where you and the club are arriving to, this just that little, we've added, it's less than half a swing rate
I
point.
can also feel that my weight is, I'm back on that one.
Yep. A little bit heavy on that one, just absorbed a bit of ball speed. That pattern of shot is a little.
If I could just swing it like I do my practice swing.
Yeah.
Because the practice swing feels right.
Free of consequence.
Weight shift feels good, but like when I actually stand over it, it's different.
Just came off that a little. What I want to do is I'm just going to change. I want to change head a little bit, because actually this one, it's a bit low on spin. But I just want to change the head just to see if that can help manage the spin rate a little bit, but potentially give us just a little bit of a better contact. But
okay.
I like where we're getting to on shaft. It's probably a fine tune maybe required, but I will get those ones out of the way. Just want to see if we can give you a little bit more spin off the club head.
The overall experience is super interesting in that, like, you're actually getting to see, instead of guessing, what the different swing weights, what the different shafts, the heads are actually doing. So you can see it in real time. And each time I put the club in my hand, it feels completely different from what I'm playing. So it's interesting to see, like, there's no other way that you're going to be able to sort of experience that, right? And so I think it's super important if you're just trying to, for me at least, trying to dial in my game and do the best I can. Just explore what options I have and what's going to work for me, what's not going to work for me. But yeah, it's super cool to be able to try different shafts, heads, but more importantly, it seems like it's the weight. Like, I think we've been playing the same head, and Simon's just been tweaking head weight and shaft weight. And that is making massive differences in how the club is being delivered, how it even feels in my hands. So that's super cool, really, really cool.
So that's a ping head.
The top line looks much thinner.
Yeah, so they've neatened up the top line all this, so it's still lots of performance off of it, but it's one of the being the I series is a little bit neater. The JPX line keeps quite a thick top line.
Sounds very different.
Yeah.
Would this be considered a game improvement iron?
So it sits on the, it's like there's a lot of performance off it. It's in the kind of I series, which technically like G740 would be more forgiving.
Yeah.
But G740 is also kind of strong loft, still going to be low spin. So I just want to retain a little bit of ball flight. Yeah, okay, that's just not quite as much flight off of that. I thought we'd get enough ball speed off the face. So essentially I thought with this we'd get enough ball speed off the face to create the trajectory, but it's just not picking it up as well. So switching to a head, back into, it's a similar kind of profile, should retain a little bit more spin. There's actually one of the Wilsons.
This is the first one that's kind of gone left, but that's me, I think.
So much softer sound off of this one. A little heavy on that. Just getting a little behind it.
Yeah.
Just watch one more hit with that if that's
Yep.
okay. Okay, it's just dropped off. Ball speed's not quite as reliable. So it has got more spin, but we've just toned down the ball speed a bit, which is not worth losing. So, okay.
Ooh, that's no good. That hit someone in the parking lot.
Is that getting contact? Yeah, again, just not quite. So, just not quite as much ball speed. So, if we go to a head to try and retain a bit of spin, ultimately a lot of the heads end up losing a little bit of forgiveness. So, actually, what I'm going to go to is I'm going to grab after this. I'm going to get a more forgiving head that actually holds a little bit more loft. So
Sure.
It's one of the. Actually one of the Mizuno series, but the higher launch one, which just to help retain a little bit of flight and carry. But if the theory's right, we should retain better ball speed. Yeah, just the contacts back cleaner again.
That felt good. I don't know
Yeah.
if that matters, but
This one's the the hot metal but the high launch.
Yeah.
So rather than being down at 26, 27 loft, we're up at 29.
Before.
Just came out of that a little bit.
Yep. Have you ever had a fitting last 6 hours?
Not an iron fitting. Just got a little bit dragged across. What I'm interested to do, just to cross check, so I just want to see, because I think what was interesting, first swing back with this, where there's a little more perimeter weighting, a little more weight down the bottom, the strike sounded a little bit more stable. But I want to just go back to an earlier shaft just to make sure that I'm not overlooking that.
Yeah. Face is a little open, feel it like.
Yeah, it's interesting. That just looks like, I think that one to me, just going back to that, looks like you're just going to have to hit at it a little bit more.
Yep, go for it.
So if you're there, yeah, I think you've got to be a bit more aggressive with that, which I'm not certain is the right way.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think that
That
again,
one,
just,
I tried to go for it.
Yeah, it just amplifies out any kind of, the timing gets off, it gets a little bit more off. So okay, so that's, I mean, might sound an odd thing to say, but good just to double check that. Because
that one I was like, okay, go after this one.
The previous shaft allows you to free up a little bit more. Yeah, it's interesting. This is back to the hot metal head, and just ball speed. And
this is a different shaft, different weight, or what did we do?
So this is back to the first head that we were testing, and then back into that the VA composite shaft that just moves a little bit more easily. Just it's interesting. I mean, that one got a little bit open, so cut away, but the contact just sounds stronger out of it. And the previous shot was, I mean, immediately back to, you're back up at 110 ball speed and 160 carry. Yeah, it's just, there's a more reliable ball speed out of this. So yes, occasionally the spin gets a little bit on the stronger side versus, in theory, what we'd, verticals kind of like to see. But if the quality of contact's better, you're going to achieve good ball height anyway. That's all right. So get rid of that one. We can ignore that.
That one broke a window.
So with, you're still a couple of shots back, 20, 22, 23 yards flight height, good efficiency. But essentially you're getting kind of more towards, there's a little bit of ball speed loss on that one, but you're getting more towards sort of 5-iron flight from this. So that's where going into your current 5-iron, there's just going to be no spin and flight on it. So therefore it's not really going to perform better than the 6.
The current 5-iron's only used from punching out of trees.
Yeah. Strange enough, I hear that a reasonable amount.
That's the only use of it.
Yeah, a little bit heavy contact, but you know, I can go back to that first one, back into it. The ball speed of 110 plus, we've not seen out of another head.
Okay.
There's one other head I want to get. I think ultimately it's a case of let's prioritize quality of contact, and yeah, at this sort of loft, we wouldn't want it to be any lower. But if you get the ball speed, then there's going to be enough height and carry. Yes, it's not going to stop dead coming into a green, but it's giving, you know, when you get it right, it's giving good distance, and it's that consistency of contact, which, as I say, you look at all the numbers and things on, you know, online, say, oh, you want loads more spin than that, but ultimately, yeah, this is going to be this one will be the longest iron in the set. So, you know, that's the spin I get on a 4-iron, for example.
Okay.
It's still functional, it still plays a shot, and I think this can still give you, the more confident you get, the more you free it up. Maybe a different ball type would give you more spin, but ultimately it's reliability of result that I'm looking for priority-wise.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm going to get another head just to compare with, just to see whether it's a very similar kind of style, but to see whether that can augment performance just a little bit more.
Okay.
Flatter. Okay. Not bad for ball speed. I'll see one more. Don't think it picks it up quite as well. But interesting enough, than that one, when it gets a bit right, it just pops the spin a touch more. Yeah, again, not better across the face. I think I still prefer the numbers you're getting from that Mizuno head. All right, there's one other head that's worth a test. Solid ball speed. Okay. Nice flow to that swing.
This is essentially the same shaft as the iron, it's just a little bit heavier, so we do a little bit more feel for the thumb. Yeah. The last one was the same weight, which again looked nuts, but if there's too much weight in the bottom,
so that one's where what happens where you just lose a little bit of rotation. So from
Got off balance, yeah.
Get to the top, and then lower body doesn't really move, and the arms kind of come downwards. If you can keep your core turning through, that will help to get the weight transfer onto your front foot. Took a bit of spin off, but that was a good line through. Solid, okay. It's in a solid place. I'm just going to switch us back to that Mizuno. I think this one's had the closest, this is the closest alternative to that Mizuno head that we've hit. From a...
What is that head?
Also, this one's a Callaway, the Quantum Max.
this should go back down.
Yeah.
Is this the HL?
No, this one's the standard hot metal. The HL just lost, just didn't collect the ball as well, didn't get as good a ball speed.
Okay, turn.
Yeah. That's nice. Came off it a little. If anything, it seems like that one just came out of that a little bit, but it's a relatively tough call. I'll give you one more, I'll switch you back to the callaway. It's a relatively tight call between the two. If anything, this one potentially just launches very slightly higher. Just a little bit of matte ball. Okay. Switch that callaway back on. And good hit, very, very little in it. Shaft out.
Simon, could you tell us a bit about the process here? It's interesting that you're going back and forth quite a bit. What are you seeing?
Yeah, with these ones, it's really seeing between them whether there's a standout. The good hits are very, very similar. So it's really seeing, does one produce better consistency? And I don't want to do too many in a row with each one. So the almost the fresher we keep it, the better. Otherwise, it can start to become a little bit of a process just churning out shots. And actually, for Nopadon, what we tend to see is that the first one or two hits tend to be the better swings, almost where there's a bit less brain involved than just swinging.
Good brain. Stay out of it.
So they tend to be, the first swings tend to be lined up a little better, where maybe it's just there's a bit less of trying to make a swing, just letting it happen. That'll be an interesting one. Okay, so reason why I immediately said that'll be interesting, because that one, there are a few where we just got a little bit of matte and ball, which just takes a bit of spin off, takes a bit of ball speed off, whereas that one's a cleaner hit. So that gives me almost a kind of a truer picture of where that spin sits.
Yep.
So
4,200.
For a shot point of view, not bad at all. If I go into the going to go back into the Mizunos, and we go with some of the clean hits. The Mizuno head 3.6. We take the stronger carries. There's that one there, 3.7 on spin. So actually, the Callaway head on the clean hit just retains a little bit more spin. So there's one at 4.4 with the Mizuno, but the clean hits with the Callaway, I guess they're pretty similar actually. Pretty similar. I thought there's slightly more of a difference, but actually the spin window with them both is pretty darn similar. Which actually from a decision point of view actually makes it slightly tougher because there's less of a difference between them.
Okay.
So they're generally on average on the clean hits around the 4,000 mark, which is enough.
Yep.
Wouldn't want it much less. But yeah, solid hit. Yeah, potentially we've seen a fraction more ball speed out of the Mizuno.
Okay.
Fraction.
Yep.
But let me see, 80 miles an hour. But they were maybe slightly earlier swings, a little bit more club speed on those particular swings.
Yep.
So actually proportionate ball speed sits very, very similarly. Ooh, very tight call on this one. Very tight call on this one. Yeah, it is a very tight call. I don't think if there's anything that would mark one out versus the other. It's actually very, very similar performance. There's a bit more sole profile wise. The Callaway's got a steeper front edge.
Yeah.
So in principle, on you could say, look, in winter on softer turf, does that protect the leading edge from digging in a little bit? Yes. You could then make the argument in summer because it's London clay when it's rock hard, is it going to bounce a bit more? Yes. Whereas the Mizuno is a little less exaggerated than that front edge. But good hit to good hit, they're both producing good results. So there does become a little bit of that, is staying with Mizuno, does being similar to what you've got, essentially the carryover model to what you've got. Is that something, would you rather see more of a change, or actually does that give you familiarity? You can make arguments both ways around.
Yeah. Because I don't see a massive difference to either.
Yeah.
My brain leans towards the familiar.
The argument for this, we're taking that sole shape in, is that being a little less exaggerated means certainly on the firmer conditions, just a little, it's going to get into the back of the ball just a little bit cleaner. And it's not like it's a kind of a butter knife. There's still some protection when it's softer. And ultimately, the better you turn through and get ball turf, the better the contact on softer turf anyway as well. So it's not one where from a numbers standpoint you say, oh, this one's stand out from the other.
Right.
They're both very, very similar. I mean, you take budget side into it, and I think, I'd have to double check, I think because of, with Mizuno, the way they structure theirs, that would probably be just a little less dear, but I don't think it's a million miles off.
Yeah.
But the sole shape, you could certainly argue for the Callaway for somebody who plays in, like take Florida or something like that, where there's less root structure, the club gets into the turf a little bit more. That would protect you a bit more in those conditions. But where we get a little bit more of a broad
how about
over
North
here,
London?
probably in summertime in particular when it's a bit firmer, that's going to be slightly more sympathetic to that turf. So you could just lean to that one if we're trying to nitpick for reasons, just to that one for those. But good hit to good hit, really, really similar performance.
All right.
So probably just erred the Mizunos for that respect. So I'm going to check the lie out on this. But numbers wise, very close call. So this head actually does retain, historically the Callaways have been very low spin. This one's actually retained a little bit more ball flight performance than previous series. And it's a little less harsh sounding as well than previous models too. So because there's a tendency to get that drift right, we can use the lie, bring it a little bit more upright just to kind of gear against the shot shape. So we wouldn't do it massively, but having it, what in principle is very slightly upright, will just help that toe to come through, help to gear against the right side.
So what does Chalkline do? It's going to put a mark.
Puts a mark on the face, yeah. So rather than hitting off like the lie boards and things where players can back off of it, it's a slightly kind of truer picture of where the lie sits. And it doesn't mark the screen. So I could use a Sharpie, but we'd have black marks all over the screen.
Yeah, not good.
Okay, let's have a little look at that. Oh, yeah, that's actually fine. Yeah, don't
oh no, it's on this one.
It's a fake mark. So, okay, I'll get a.
Is that where I struck it way up here?
A little into the heel side, yeah. So it's a faint line because the pen's running it, but that's pretty square up the face. Now, actually, if we bring it slightly more upright and have it pointing a little toe side, because of the loft, that actually helps to not drift right. So I'm going to make a slight adjustment to this, and then we'll test again. But I'll get a pen that's not running out. So just bend the lie a little bit more upright.
Cool.
So we'll just retest that. So in essence, I want them to play just slightly upright from neutral, because that's just going to help to minimise the drift right.
That one a little bit softer now, so that one's quite something like that is going to work really nice.
Okay, let's have a little. Cool, thank you.
Where did that go?
Okay, yeah, so similar kind of strike point.
Moved it.
It's just, we can take it a hair more, so it's very, very neutral there. So we can take the lie, the top, just a fraction more. So what we don't want is we don't want that line pointing right out towards the toe, because otherwise then you've only got that bit to strike it against. So it's a bit of it's a marginal thing. So we only need to take it, it's just erring very slightly towards the toe, maybe take another 0.5 degree or so. But that'll just help, particularly in the shorter irons, but that'll just help to, so it's the loft that gears against the shot shape rather than, it doesn't close the face. But the more loft you get, if it is upright, it starts to, because of the loft, it starts to point left. So, so it just helps from a shot shape point of view.
Okay.
So quite interesting as a conclusion that we've ended up headwise with essentially the current version of what you've got, which ultimately shows they're actually working well for you. The actual construction design, getting a bit of mass down the bottom end definitely helped, with the callaway being the other alternative. But head style very close. This is really mainly shaft weight coming down by 20 odd grams, which then lets you, the more you free those arms up on your kind of first couple of shots where there's maybe a bit less trying to swing it. And we see this a lot, are often some of the best swings because it's just, oh, let's see what happens.
Get your brain out of it.
And just, and then once you start to see a result, we start to kind of think a little bit too much. But actually, that shaft weight down, leave a little bit of weight in the head, but get the shaft weight down, that's the bit that allows you to free up that little bit more, which then just means not having to put as much of a hit into it, which then should allow that kind of freedom. Certainly working on swing side of things, that technique side to develop more, but actually create less effort to get the results. And then use the heads to give you that forgiveness and ball speed.
That was super fun. That was a great fun.
No, great stuff. And there's, so you're talking about 20 grams, that's a good, over 20% of the shaft weight. So it's actually quite a big change, whereas 5 grams can make a result.
Yeah, 20 grams is, it's odd. When you showed it to me, it's just a pen. But it feels massively different in your hands.
And so heavy ultimately asks you to be spot on perfect, whereas light is going to allow you to be freed up and not have to be quite a sort of full bore at it. So, so quite interesting from the head standpoint. I thought we'd end up going to a higher spin head, but actually the ball speed gained of this head and then the launch angle optimized performance and reliability, which versus a few hundred revs of spin, the reliability is that bit more key. But this one, we're all about shaft weight.